Hello, my name is Chuck Wolf. Over the years, I've worked in many different roles, including leading my own leadership consulting company since 1994. I've worked for and with some of the best companies and universities in the world, and have had the opportunity to work with government officials, military organizations, and public and private schools. I'm a leading expert and pioneer in emotional intelligence. Since 2009, I've been a volunteer hosting a radio show I created called The Emotion Roadmap: Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. I really enjoy making a difference in people's lives. The show is on award-winning community radio station, WPKN in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In recent years, Simsbury Community Television has been sharing my shows on their station and on YouTube. My sincere hope is that everyone who watches regularly will learn how to use the Emotion Roadmap in their own lives by listening to people who call in to get help with challenges at work, home, and in communities. To learn more, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. If you have a comment or question, email me at cjwolf@cjwolf.com. Thank you and enjoy the show. And this is Chuck Wolf. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Again, Chuck Wolf. The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. How are you feeling? I hope you're all feeling upbeat. In case you're not, I'm here to be helpful. The show is all about helping people deal with challenging situations in your life. Lots of times, very smart people, the people that listen to PKN, hopefully all of you listening to PKN, all of you are very smart people and you're good critical thinkers and you're good problem solvers. But when you're stuck, when people are stuck, I find it often is useful to consider what is happening emotionally, because often emotions are why you're stuck. Sometimes it's emotions inside yourself. Sometimes you're worried about emotions in your negotiations or relationships with other people. So the show is again called The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. It is possible to change how you feel, to influence how you feel, even to influence how others feel. So that's what the show's about. I always come prepared to talk about different kinds of situations involving emotional challenges, often having to do with work or at home or in the community. But I also like to be here for you as callers who listen to the show regularly. And thank you all who tune in. I'm on the first and second Wednesdays of each month if you're just tuning in for the first time. But for those who know when I'm on and who look forward to it, thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you all. But if you're new to the show or if you're a regular listener and you have a reason that you want to call me to talk to me about something in your life that's challenging, where you're not sure how to proceed, where you're uncertain, doubtful, stuck, give me a call at 203-336-9756. And I use what I call my Emotion Roadmap to help guide our discussion to see if I can help you find new options, new ways to think about what it is you're dealing with. Perhaps it's a confrontation. Perhaps it's a decision that's really weighing on you. Perhaps it's something that's going to be positive for you, but not for somebody else you care about. Maybe it's a change in your organization. Maybe you're a leader and you're about to announce that we're going to have some restructuring or we're going to move our company, and it's going to have a lot of major implications for people that work for you, and you're concerned about all of that or any of that. Or you're just worried about a colleague at work, somebody who works for you or you work with or you work for. Any of those situations are situations you can call, and I hopefully can provide you with some help. My name again is Chuck Wolf. I have a background in emotional intelligence, in leadership development, in psychology, and in counseling, and I've been working with people over my lifetime, always to help make people's lives better as best I can in a meaningful, positive way. And this Emotion Roadmap I created is a result of having a wonderful opportunity early on in my career to work with the pioneers in emotional intelligence and become something of a pioneer in the field myself. So one of the things I'd like to ask you to think about today, if you don't have something specific to call about, is have you ever been part of an outstanding team? Have you ever had the experience of feeling like, wow, it is so great to be part of this group of people? It feels not just like a random group, but it feels like we all belong together in this way, working to achieve these goals. And the idea of moving from what feels like a group of people gathered together to a team focusing on the same goals with different responsibilities and different accountabilities, everybody being responsible, being accountable, and everybody having each other's back and supporting one another as best they can. If you ever had that kind of experience, I'd love to hear about your experience with teams, even the negative ones, because I find that we learn from what doesn't work. Sometimes even we learn more from what doesn't work than what we do learn from what does work. But if you've got a good story, a good team story to tell, I'd love to hear it. So if you've got something specific to call about, the number to call is 203-336-9756. And I will play on this on my radio show on one of the days that I won't be in the studio, a conversation I just had with a woman who is one of the leading thinkers in the world on emotional intelligence in teams. On emotional intelligence in teams. Her name is Vanessa Druskat, and you can look her up. Druskat is Druskat. And Vanessa rose to fame, if you will, when she and a colleague of hers, someone else I'm friendly with as well, Steve Wolf, his name is spelled a little differently. So besides not spelling his name correctly, Steve is really a really interesting thinker. And he and Vanessa were two authors who wrote Team Emotional Intelligence and had their article and their research published in Harvard Business Review. And that is an enormous achievement. And there wasn't anybody else really writing about team emotional intelligence in the way that Steve and Vanessa wrote about it. Well, Vanessa's gone on to do some very incredibly brilliant, innovative work in the world of teams, and she has just published a book. And I interview her about her book, and we have a lovely conversation. We've been friendly for a number of years now. We both are part of what's called the Consortium for Research on Emotional Intelligence in Organizations. And Vanessa is one of those people who does a lot of research, but is also a practitioner. I'm on the end where I don't really do a lot of research, a little bit, but mostly I'm a practitioner. And I'm also very knowledgeable about one of the instruments that's been one of the major ways we assess emotional intelligence, something called the Mesquite, which is the Mayer-Salve-Crusoe Emotional Intelligence Test, which measures our emotional abilities. So in any case, Vanessa and I have been connected for a number of years, and we've gotten to know each other well. And when her book was about to be published, I asked let's talk about it on air. So I did interview, and you'll get to hear that here soon. So anyway, I want to see if you've got callers who are interested in sharing a story they may have about teams. Again, if you have something you want to call me about, that's the priority. If you've got a challenge that you have in mind that you were waiting for me to be on the air, I'd like to always honor those requests first. So the number to call, and I'll give you a moment in case you are not quite at your phone yet, but if you want to get to a phone, the number to call is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So if you've got something that's on your mind that's challenging you in the way of something in the workplace, there's a lot going on in the workplace today. I know there's a lot of concerns about artificial intelligence, and I'm actually potentially exploring doing some work with people who are really, innovators in that field in artificial intelligence, and looking at the way emotional intelligence and artificial intelligence impact each other, because I think we're going to need a lot more emotional intelligence as artificial intelligence enters our world. So while I'm waiting, let me give you the number again first. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So I'll give you a minute to call in case you're waiting. By the way, I know sometimes it's hard to call the radio station if you don't know me or if you're new to the show. You may not know, well, why would I call this person? Well, I've got a lot of experience. I used to be a therapist. I continue to be a leadership coach. I have been for years. I work with people in very senior roles. I'm working with the chief executive and owner of a hedge fund. I'm working with the owner of a company of truck drivers and warehouse employees. I work with people in financial services. I worked in the highest levels of manufacturing with technology companies. So I've had lots of different work experiences, but I've also been a family therapist, and I've been a counselor. I worked in schools as a counselor. Worked as the elementary counselor in a very proactive program. Was the first elementary school counselor in the state of Iowa many, many years ago. Worked in the state institution for the mentally insane. So I've had a lot of experiences that allow me to help people, that have taught me how to help people. And I've always gone into all those positions and all that work and continue to do that work to make people's lives better. So if you've got something on your mind that you think you would, where you're not sure how to proceed and not sure what to do next, and you're just kind of stuck, and you'd like to get some expertise guided by this format, this logical flow of how to deal with emotions logically with this emotion roadmap, the questions I'll ask are, tell me a bit about your story. Tell me what's going on. Who the key players are. Is it just something internal to you? Sometimes we just have conflicts inside ourselves. Or is it something that involves other key people? And then I'll ask you, how are you feeling? And if there are any key people, how is he or she or they feeling? And then I'll ask, what would be ideal to feel? If you could magically make feelings change to what would be ideal to feel about your circumstance, situation, or challenge, what would that be? And well, that's not always easy to figure out. I mean, I know everybody wants to be happy all the time, but hey, if it's really thoughtful in terms of what emotion would go best with what particular challenge or task or situation you face, and there are better emotions than other emotions for a particular task, and we can talk more about that later. But the idea is to go from what you are feeling to look at what you want to feel, and then think of ways to get there. And when we begin exploring ways to get there, that's where the strategic role of critical thinking and problem solving comes in, tied specifically to changing emotions from what is to what could be, what would be ideal. So that's how it works. So if you call me, and I'm going to just take you through that process of just simply trying to understand what's going on for you, and then very obviously, or maybe in the background, I'm thinking, what's this person feeling? I may ask you specifically. And then what do you want to feel? What would be ideal to feel? And how can we get there? How do we get there? And we explore possibilities. And then when we're through, if you can answer when you have a strategy you think might work, that you are able and willing to do that strategy, perhaps even excited about that strategy, then we've been successful. And you leave the phone call feeling very hopeful that you've got something that's going to work for you. So that's how it all works. So again, 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. By the way, the first call is always the toughest one because it takes a little while to break the ice here. And I've only got an hour. I'm on from 12 to 1 p.m. So, and actually to 12:55 because then a public service broadcast comes on. So 203-336-9756. Well, on this nice day outside in downtown Bridgeport, Connecticut, and people listening across the area probably maybe outside doing other stuff. I don't know. But if you are listening and you don't have a particular challenge you want to share, have you been part of a team that's really been successful? Again, I've been thinking a lot about teams. One of the things Vanessa says about teams that I love this idea. Well, there's two particular points she makes that are outstanding to me. The first one is that when a team feels like a team to everybody that's on it, there's a sense of each person feels like they belong. They fit there. This is where they should be. This is happening now, and it's right for this circumstance and situation to be happening now in the way that it is. It feels right. I feel like I belong. And partly the way that happens is everybody feels valued. Everybody feels supported by each other. Everybody feels cared about. And everybody's focused and accountable and responsible. So it's about belonging. That's the first part. The second part that I think is such an outstanding thought on Vanessa's part, which often gets missed is that excellent teams sometimes have superstars, but it's not about the superstars. It's about the team culture, the team processes, the team's values, the way people interact with each other, and whether people feel like they belong. It's about how teams operate, how they work together, the style that they use with each other, the culture that surrounds the team. All that matters enormously, more than whether or not you have superstars on your team. Superstars can be wonderful, obviously. Everybody knows they've seen superstars, and sometimes superstars can take teams to championships if you're looking at sports metaphors or even in competition with business and industry. But there's also, our schools are all over the place, really. Sometimes superstars are really an important component, but they're not always. What's most important is how the team operates together. That's a very unique, innovative thought, and at least in my mind it is. Because most of us, at least I believe, think that, you got to have superstars on your team in order to really be champions, to win at, in very competitive circumstances or challenges. So anybody's got a team that they've been on and they can talk about what worked on that team, I'd love to hear from you today. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Well, I'm going to talk some about teams. I want to tell you a little bit about teams. And for those of you who listen to the show regularly, you know that I'm from Massachusetts originally. I've lived many more years in Connecticut than I ever did in Massachusetts. But growing up years, formative years, were Massachusetts. And I grew up in love with the Boston teams. It was kind of a rite of passage for a lot of young boys. Girls too, but boys in particular, identified with the sports teams like the Red Sox, the Celtics, the Patriots, the Bruins. Those were the major sports teams in the Boston area when I was growing up. And I care about all of them differently, but I do care about all of them. And one of the teams that is having a moment in time where the things that Vanessa talks about, team emotional intelligence, that things that are happening for one team in particular at this time are the Red Sox. Now, there's a lot of people that know nothing about sports or baseball or Red Sox that might be listening to this program. So I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about a little bit about what baseball is, a little bit about the dynamics of the kind of competition that exists, and then also about why the Red Sox at the moment really have that team concept that I was just talking about happening right now, where people feel like they belong and it feels like all the processes are working for the most part the way they need to. Now, but I'll also, again, priority is your phone call. So let me stop and give you another chance in case you want to talk about your own experience with teams or something on your mind that you'd like some help with. 203-336-9756. And I will say one other thing, by the way. I often like to say something. I'm a big Neil Young fan over the years, and one of the songs he had that really struck me as important, that a lot of his songs have important messages. Some I agree with, some I don't. But in any case, there's lots of messages in Neil's lyrics. And one of the things that he talked about was, don't go away saying it might have been. It might have been. Don't go away at the end. If you hear me talk to somebody else and you hear me help somebody and you feel like, geez, I wish I'd made that phone call. This Chuck's not back on until next week, and I don't know if I'll get in case there's other callers. So I'm here by myself and to answer phones. So if you've got something, I encourage you not to wait, but to call. And otherwise, you might go away saying, it might have been. I wish I had made that call. So let me just give you one more shot at this before I launch into this story. I think you'll like the story, but my priorities are your phone calls. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Okay. Well, for better or worse, here comes my story. You've got baseball, which is a game of where there's an American League and a National League. So within the two leagues, there are a number of teams. The teams all compete with each other in a game called baseball. I think probably most people know the rudiments of baseball, where it's somebody throwing a ball to somebody with a bat in their hands, trying to hit the ball, get the ball past fielders who are trying to get them out, and so that their team can get up, and the people who are at what they call home plate, standing with a bat in their hands, are trying to hit the ball and score runs. And the end of the game, there's 9 innings typically, although if it's a tie, it can go longer. But typically it's 9 innings. The end of the 9 innings, whichever team has the most runs is the winner. And you look at 162 games over the course, 162 games, over the course of a season. And whoever has the most wins gets to go to the next level. And the way it all happens is you go to a level, meaning within your own division. So in the American League, you compete with 3 divisions within your league, but it's all American League. So you have teams that compete with each other. They play a series of games together. The one who comes out the winner of those games gets to play against the National League. National League's doing the same thing. And then the final winners in the American League play the final winners in the National League, and then you have championship or world championship. The Red Sox, interestingly, had not won a world championship since 1918 until the turn of the century here. They won in 2004. Then they won in 2007. And then they won in 2013. And then they won in 2018. So they've won a bunch, actually. It's a lot. With all the teams that are out there, that's a lot of World Series. But then they've had some very down years where they haven't performed very well. And they haven't spent large amounts of money on salary, like some of the teams that have spent an enormous amount of money in recent years have been the Dodgers. I think they may have the highest payroll, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the New York Mets. I forget which one has spent the most money, but they both spent lots and lots of money. And what I mean by spending money is they try to buy the best players. They pay for the superstars, if you will. The Yankees are very close to them as well, and perhaps there's a few others. But the Dodgers and Mets for sure are paying a ton of money. I think Philadelphia Phillies too are really high on the salary levels this year, and they have good teams. Typically, they have good teams. So, but the Red Sox have a lot of young players. They have a lot of players who haven't established themselves as superstars yet. Have the potential, perhaps, to become stars in the game. But there are a lot of young players, many of them below 30 years old, some in their early 20s, who are just tasting what it feels like to have a chance to play in what they call the playoffs, which leads to this championship. And in the experience of watching teams develop and how they work, if you listened earlier, you heard me say that Vanessa Druscott, one of the leading thinkers on teams and emotional intelligence, talks about the processes you put in place where you create a sense of belonging. Her research shows, and I believe this to be true, that the most important thing about teams being effective is that people feel like they're members of the team that matter. They feel valued and appreciated. They matter. So that's how it works. Now, right now, we've just passed what's called a trade deadline, meaning that all the teams in the major leagues, American and national, have a chance to trade players. And then it stops for a period of time. But they have a chance to trade players, and this goes up to a certain point of time, and then it stops. And then during the time period, a lot of players get very anxious because they think, geez, I don't know if I'm going to still be with this team. Especially if you like the team a lot, you hope that you're not going to be one of the people traded. And why would people trade you? Because sometimes they trade you. Let's say you've got 4 people that play the same position. Let's say you need 3 outfielders, people that play what's called the outfield. And you have 4 people that are great at it. But you don't need 4 great people. You got 3. And you've got some other people that can play in case one of them gets hurt. So to play 4 people, it means you got to juggle. You got to get everybody in the game. Not everybody's playing every day. And sometimes that doesn't work either. And so maybe you think, I'm going to trade an outfielder for somebody who's a pitcher or a catcher or a first baseman, something we really need on a team that we don't have a person in that place. And so even when somebody's really good, they may get traded for somebody else that makes the team overall better. But the chemistry on this team, especially in recent times, is outstanding in the Red Sox team. And there's a lot of reasons for what makes that happen, but it really falls on the shoulders in terms of major responsibility for the team's manager, who happens to be Alex Cora, who a lot of people think is very good at managing. But Alex has struggled in a number for the last couple of years, and it's not always his fault. But in any case, right now he has a team of people, all who I believe at this moment in time feel like they add value. They're an important contributor to the team. And this isn't easy to do because you got a lot of times you got people sitting on the bench, and they wonder, I'm glad my team's winning, but I'm not really playing, and I'm not making much of a difference, and I don't think I really matter here. At which point you don't feel like you belong. And not that that's totally disruptive, but that happens in a lot of teams where people who are not regular starters may not feel like they're important and valued by the team. And may not be, by the way. They may be right. In this particular case, I think Cora has done an amazing job making everybody feel valued. Everybody feels like they're a contributor. Everybody has a chance to show up and play at different times. He's juggling it around. He's trying to give some people time off to rest. Some people don't want to. Some people think I'm better if I play every game. That's when I'm at my best. You take me out and you sit me down and you make me miss a game or two because you want to play somebody else. That's disruptive to me. It's upsetting to my regular patterns that work for me over and over again that help me be as good as I am right now. And you mess that up when you take me out for a day or two to give me rest. And yet I think he's doing this in a way that everybody gets. It isn't just about me. It's about all of us feeling like we're part of the team, and we all matter, and we all add value, and everybody appreciates each other, and we want to support each other. So I don't mind sitting a day. I'll figure it out so that somebody else has a chance to play that needs to play at least some. And that seems to be working right now. Again, I'm a Red Sox fan from the time I was born, I think. And so watching this right now is so much fun. So all of my friends and family that are Red Sox fans, we're all talking to each other about, can you believe how good it feels right now? So when I think about what Vanessa's teaching about teams and emotional intelligence, and I'm seeing it play out in a team that's very visible. If you happen to live in a place where you can get the NESN station, New England Sports Network, NESN, you can see them if you subscribe to Major League Baseball. It's an app that you can log into if you're willing to pay a certain fee. You get to see lots of teams. I know a lot of people who are fans from different parts of the country will want to see their team. They buy into that Major League Baseball app. So, there's ways to see them. But if you're just interested in watching the dynamics and the crowds, my wife and I went to the baseball game on Friday night to the Red Sox to Fenway Park. And we hadn't been there in a while. And they brought up a pitcher from the minor leagues, a fellow named Cooper Criswell. And he hadn't pitched in the majors in a long time. And we thought, oh, darn, I don't know if we're going to see a win because we're playing against the Houston Astros. And this is a team from Houston, Texas that is excellent. And they have really good pitchers and hitters and defenders. And so we thought, I don't know. I hope that, they've been winning a lot, so maybe they'll win this one. But Cooper Criswell pitched exceptionally well. And so did the Houston pitcher. And the game went, I think it was 1-1 or something until the final innings. And in the final inning, it went into overtime. In the final inning and overtime, a rookie, someone they brought up, someone named Roman Anthony, who looks like could potentially at some point be a superstar. He looks like he has that potential. He got up. He had 2 strikes on him. The Red Sox had runners on 2 bases, second and third. This first, second, and third. And all he had to do was bring one player in with a hit of some kind to the outfield. Even a long fly ball that was caught probably would work. Again, if you don't know baseball, just accept that would have worked. Or a ball hit to the other side of the field, to the first base side, someone on third might score. There was lots of possibilities, but the game had been so tight. everyone on every pitch in the stadium was so focused on this game. I mean, I've been to a lot of games that, frankly, if the Red Sox are winning by a lot, you're kind of having fun in the stands, but you're really excited that your team's winning, but you're not so focused on every pitch. In a game like this, every moment, every second, everything that's happening counts. And so Roman Anthony got up and he got strike one, strike two. Now, if he strikes out, nothing happens. Two other people strike out, they don't win. They go on to more innings to see who else. They might get another chance, but they wouldn't win then. So on the second strike, he's a really good hitter, this young man. And the next pitch that comes over, he hits one of the farthest balls he's hit over the head of what they call the center fielder. And only one run needs to score, but it's an amazing kid. And all the fans erupted in cheering. And we stayed around, they play songs, and it's a very exciting time in the park when you win. And it was just an amazing night weather-wise too. So that's what I mean when I say teams create fans and they create excitement and they believe in each other. And everybody swamped the young rookie at the end because all of them were so excited to win. Again, against a very good team. And so from the Red Sox not wondering if they were going to not have a chance at the playoffs because they were doing so poorly in the beginning of this year, to where they are now is like night and day. And that they're 2.5 games out of first place, and that was a dream that most people thought would be impossible when it was May or early June and the Red Sox were not playing so well. So it's fun to see teams perform. And again, I hope you have a story about a team that you could share. Something that excites you, something that you've seen on your teams that you've been a part of. I was trying to think about my own team experience, where I did work together with a team. I'll tell you a team that feels like it has the potential to be that for me right now is I'm working with a woman from Yale University, and I'm working with a couple of people from Brazil who are in the field of emotional intelligence, and we're collaborating to put together something that is designed to take my emotion roadmap and use it with caretakers. And I've had a few people call in about caretaking in recent times onto the radio show. And, it's painful to hear somebody's struggles with caretakers because, it's challenging, so emotionally challenging. On the one hand, if you're the person being taken care of, some people really struggle with being dependent. Having to ask others for almost anything that they feel like they need or want. So some people are challenged emotionally with asking for help. Others, even though we say we care, we love, we will do anything for the people that are in our circle of friends or family, when the time comes and we're asked to do things that take us from the things that we love doing, because we want to help them and be supportive of them and do what they need. Again, I'm not saying you don't want to do it, but I am saying it is emotionally challenging. And so the woman at Yale, Joan Monon, who is a professor at Yale University, she spends time specifically researching in the areas of support for people with Alzheimer's and dementia, a very specific kind of disease that is debilitating in many ways, as I'm sure most of you are aware. But there's lots of diseases like that, and it is often something that attacks people who are older. But at the same time, there are times when people are born with disabilities and never have the chance to be independent and are always dependent. And then there are those who have something happen to them, a disease, an accident, something in your life that takes you from being a very active person, a very independent person, maybe even an athletic person. But anyway, someone who is, very much able to live an independent life, something changes. Dramatic change happens, whether it's because you're in a car accident, bicycle, a motorcycle accident, you just simply fall down a flight of steps and you hurt yourself physically. You might fall off a horse. All kinds of things can happen to people. Or it's something, a disease attacks you. A debilitating disease shows up in your life. So all those things have an impact that cause people to go into this role of being cared for and other people becoming caretakers. And I love the idea that this emotion roadmap that I've created can be useful in this way. And Joan and I met at a conference presentation where she was talking about the emotions involved with Alzheimer's and dementia and other kinds of debilitating illnesses. And I talked with her afterwards because those of you who listen to the show know that I've worked with a number of people at Yale University that are pioneers in the field of emotional intelligence. And so we had something in common that way we talked about, but she had not really known about this emotion roadmap. And when I explained it to her, she said, I think the emotion roadmap, one, it's easy to understand. It's 4 separate sets of questions. It's about what is happening in your life and how are you feeling about it. If someone else is key, how is he or she or they feeling? 2, what is it that would be ideal for you and for them to feel? 3, how do you get from what you are feeling to what would be ideal to feel? And 4, what are the strategies that you're willing and able to do that will create the feelings you desire for you and for them? That's it. So it's simple to understand. It's not necessarily easy to do, but we're working together to collaborate to create some online coursework that will teach people how to understand what's happening to them internally, what they can do about it, how they can make changes to what they're feeling, to the narrative they're talking to themselves about when they are feeling things that are not helpful or in the way of being the kind of person they want to be and so forth. This is all things that are possible with this roadmap we created. So I'm very excited about that. But the reason I'm talking about that in this segment is because that's a team that's come together. This is a woman in Yale, and the people in Brazil are 2 people that are expert in emotional intelligence. We began talking about using this emotion roadmap with an online course for business-to-business sales. That people who want to learn about what I do on the radio and but want to learn in a consistent, thought-out way that addresses business needs will be able to purchase this online course at some point. But along the way, we stopped and we all got excited about the possibility of being able to use what we're doing to help people who are have a role in caretaking. As it turns out, all of us have either been in the role ourselves or are in the role currently. So there is some interest in this from a personal level for the people involved with me. And also it's just a great group of people for me to be working with. And I'm hoping that this team is one of those kinds of teams that really does come together and create something wonderful that benefits all those people who are impacted by caretaking, all those people who are in need of care, all those people who are providing the care, and everybody in between that's trying to be helpful. How do we deal with the emotional challenges associated with that? So that's what's happening on that end about a team that I'm a part of right now that feels like it could be special. Don't know if it will be, but that's how it feels. So again, anybody out there that's got a team story that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from somebody out there that has something that they can talk to that is a team they've been a part of at work, in the community, perhaps at a religious organization or some kind of club you belong to. If you got something like that, the number to call is 203-336-9756. And I'll wait. I'll give you a chance to call. I've been talking a lot. I'll wait a minute or two here. 203-336-9756. Two zero three 336-9756. Well, this might be one of those shows. They don't happen often, but they do happen occasionally where I don't get a caller. So that's that's up to me then. I've got another 20 minutes or so that I'll share with you other things that I think are interesting to chat about that have to do with the emotion roadmap and managing how you feel. So one of the things I started the show with was that there's a lot of impact right now in the world where people are worried about their jobs, whether they're going to have them or not. Oh, okay. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hey, Chuck. I'm Bob.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I was listening to your show, and I was thinking about what you were speaking as far as teams. And, I'm thinking about this country and how divided we are. And I'm wondering, how can we use emotional intelligence to bring us together? Because we have so many factors that are pulling us apart, particularly the media, which is, spinning everything, and you got to the left and to the right, and it's tearing us apart. But, we should be a team as a country and be looking to make things better for us, for our future and everything else. And I wanted to understand, what your thoughts might be on that.
Sure. I do have some thoughts about it. First of all, I think people have become polarized for a number of reasons. Part of it's the media, the traditional media, the news channels, TV, and people that read newspapers, the cable shows. And then there's also the algorithms on social media that, you click on something that you have a moderate amount of interest in, and all of a sudden you're flooded with that information that supports whatever the clickbait was. And so you just get continually reinforced like you're in an echo chamber of the things that you were told and you believe. So I think that complicates it. But there is a group that I actually had somebody on the air from. He was John Wood Jr. He's an ambassador for a group called Braver Angels. And John Wood Jr. is a really interesting guy. He's a fellow whose father was a white conservative from Tennessee, and his mother was a black, very radical, sort of progressive, left-leaning person in California. And so he's kind of like lived in in both worlds, really. And yet at the same time, he became an ambassador for Braver Angels. This group, Braver Angels, has dedicated itself to increasing civility. And they've created workshops where, you got to have some interest in wanting to hear the other side for this to work. But where people who are very deeply embedded in what they call the red position, which tends to be conservative, the blue position, which tends to be, I think, more liberal than progressive, I want to say, for this group, because I don't think the very strong extreme progressives or the very strong extreme conservatives either one of those are going to join this group. But the people that have the questions like you have, Bob, which, it's got to be better than this somehow. And they come together and they have workshops. And one of the original people that was creating this was somebody who has a background in marriage therapy. So he knows how to get people talking to each other that have really polarized around relationships from that work. And he found ways to get people to understand and listen to each side in ways that they didn't necessarily agree with the other side, but they had a much better feeling for why somebody could believe what they believe that's different than what they believed. And so they weren't searching so much for what's truth out there, because I don't know that anybody can say, hey, this is the one place you go for the truth, because everybody has different versions of the same facts sometimes. You might know what the facts are that are truthful, but you still might perceive them differently. But I think what they did was they tried to get people to understand, hey, it's okay to disagree. I remember years ago, I used to like to talk about politics with people because, if you were a smart guy and I felt I was a smart guy and you thought really differently than me, I thought, well, I'd like you to know what I think, but I also want to know what you think, because maybe I'll learn something. And maybe I'll think differently. But I don't think that happens very much anymore. So that's my take on it.
No, I don't find it does. And I've had some conversations with people, and it seems like once you get to a certain point, either they don't have the facts or I don't have the facts or whatever it might be, it just comes to a standstill. But, it's just a shame because we have such a wonderful country and there's so much nonsense going on and so much baloney money out there, and people are sucking it up and believing this stuff, and nothing's really changed. People are people. Everybody's a human. We all are like souls trapped in these bodies, whether you're black, white, yellow, or green, and we all have a common purpose, right? Which is to live in a peaceful way. I think but I often wonder about it, and it's really bothered me lately. Obviously, about a lot of people.
No, I agree, Bob. I think it's a shame that there isn't more people who are trying to figure out how do we get along better. We don't have to agree with each other to get along better. And the thing that made me kind of nuts in the beginning, when I think it got really. It's been happening for a long time. I won't say it started with Trump, but when President Trump first became president, and then there's all kinds of stuff happening right now around what was done then and whether things were illegal that were happening. There's all kinds of stuff that's out there now to just. It just causes even more concerns and more emotions to rise and people to be upset with each other. But, one of the things that happened was, it seems to me whoever we elect, don't we want to be successful? Whether you hated Barack Obama or you hated Donald Trump, didn't you want them to be successful once they became president? Shouldn't we want that?
I don't understand, Chuck, is I don't understand, and I try to be a liberal. I guess I'm a liberal person. I feel I'm liberal.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand. You have a lot of Hispanic folks that, for some reason or another, are very conservative, strongly conservative.
Right.
But yet you see what's going on with the immigration and kicking people out and all the other things. And I wondered, why isn't the narrative, because it's around socialism. And I think a lot of these folks come from countries where when they hear the word socialism, they think of some socialist dictator like Castro or whatever who's going to hammer them, and they're all going to be living like how they were in order to have to escape to come to a better place. And I wonder why the narrative isn't, hey, no, socialism isn't that. It's really the post office, public education, all these things that, welfare, Social Security, all these things that make us a good country and an envy of the world. But yet, somehow the narrative has been twisted to make folks from these countries, these Latin American folks, think that socialism is a bad thing, when in reality, it would benefit them immensely.
Well,
anyway.
I think with socialism, at least from what I've heard and what I've seen and the way I think about this, is that I think socialism replacing capitalism is a problem. I think socialistic practices like the ones you describe are absolutely critical to creating a culture where we support, care about each other. So I don't think it's a clean divide, in terms of like socialism is great. I don't think I think when you think about the socialist countries, there aren't good examples of. Castro's not the only one. There's other places, whether it's Venezuela or China, wherever you go, where communism, socialism exist. Those aren't great stories. But there are great stories around like Social Security and Medicare and public education. Those are great stories, and those are socialistic practices. And I think you're right to say that practices like that get caught up in, is there going to be a dictator like Castro who's not going to, everything's going to be controlled by the government. It's going to disincentivize anybody from hard work because everybody's going to get an annual income and nobody's going to have to work for anything anymore. And it's going to deplete capitalism, to me, I'm a big fan of capitalism, but not greed. And capitalism gets over the top when people in charge and the people who lead are just interested in filling their own buckets and not worried about anybody else. So I think you're right. There's a part of me that socialism to me isn't a dirty word, but it's also not the answer by itself. At least the way I think about it, it has certain aspects.
Well, because we're human, and humans have tendencies of greed, and that's the big thing. And people just want more and more and more. Right. Even you go to a kibbutz in Israel, and you live on a kibbutz, okay, and that's supposed to be a socialistic society, but in reality, there's hierarchy. So, is it really true socialism? But what I meant really was more the things that favor us, like the public education and the post office and helping people and all these things that would be considered socialistic in in a practice.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. No, I mean, even as a young person, when I went to college, I had a communist professor. It wasn't a terrible thing. It wasn't like McCarthy's time. He was a communist professor. He was a professed communist, but he was a really interesting, funny guy and really smart. And he had us read the Marx's manifesto. And I thought, at that point, I was a working class kid. I was coming from not a lot of money. I was struggling to make ends meet. And I thought, yeah, sure, I want some of that. I want to share with everybody else. That sounded good to me. And so, I get it. I get it. But I also found like the places that actually try to implement it, Russia and China in particular, the people lost the government got more and more and more powerful and control, and people lost the incentive to compete with one another because it didn't matter to compete. Everybody's going to get the same thing. So, I thought Marx wrote from his heart, and what he wanted for people was a good thing. But I don't think we're at a place where that can work yet. But
not yet, no. But I think when you heard the message, at least I heard the message, and the message I heard was, we elect people that are going to support billionaires, or we elect people that are going to try to make it better for people like you, like me, or you, or I don't know. I imagine you're not a billionaire,
I'm not.
But I'm just saying, But the thing is the vote's so close, and we got all these Latinos that really would benefit immensely by the social services that could be gained. And when I heard Kamala saying, we got to tax these wealthy people and start to help build this country back. What happened to those billionaires like I won't say the Rockefellers, but let's talk about people that gave billions to build post offices and libraries and all these things back in the 30s and they're not there anymore. At least we don't see as much of it. The philanthropy. If these billionaires were more philanthropic and were starting to do things that would benefit society, some of them do.
Yeah, no, I know people very wealthy, and a lot of them are very charitable, and they do a lot of nice things for the world. So, I don't like the class, competition. That if you're rich, you're somehow you got to give more to me for some reason. I don't get that. I do. I mean, it's like Warren Buffett, who I think is a liberal. I don't know, but he complained several times. I heard not heard. I heard him say it once, but I also read about it a number of times. The government doesn't tax me as much as they tax my administrative assistant. That's crazy. But I'm thinking to myself, is there something that stops you from giving the government more money? I mean, do you need a law to tell you to do that? or can you just make contributions where, like Bill Gates has done a tremendous amount with the money he has, So.
Yeah. Well, you're right, but it's interesting. I read recently there's like 1,000 billionaires living in, is it New York? Something like that. Really amazing. Just amazing. But anyway, Chuck, I won't waste your time. I just think, you're doing a great job. I love what you're doing, helping people with their issues and working things out intellectually and all that. I hope we can, wake people up and see a brighter future in the
Well, check out Braver Angels, Bob. I mean, given what you care about, you might find that there's a place that you want to do something with those folks. Those folks are doing some good work.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, thanks for the tip.
You bet. Take care. Thanks for the call. Bye-bye. Yep. Well, that was nice. So I've just got a couple of minutes left, so I'm not going to ask anybody else to call. So I want to say thank you to everybody who was listening. I hope you're enjoying the show. Again, for those of you who are concerned about the same thing Bob is concerned about, and how can you not be at some level, but if you want to do something about it, I highly recommend the Braver Angels group as a group that is really working hard. They don't come at it from left or right. They come at it as, let's increase the civility amongst us. And let's increase the understanding of why somebody might feel differently, why people who you might think would be a certain way feel differently than what you thought that they would feel. I think that they build an understanding, and hopefully at some point that group takes off and there's more to come. If you have access to, well, you can. You just look it up, Public Radio Exchange, Emotion Roadmap. And John Wood Jr., if you want to hear the conversation I have with him. He's a great guy. This person that I talk with is the ambassador for Braver Angels. You want to know more about the program and him. This was done a few years ago, but it's on that station. I have a number of shows listed under Emotion Roadmap on what's called the Public Radio Exchange, and one of the shows was with John Wood Jr. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the show, everybody. I'll be back next week. If you've got something that you want to call and talk to me about, please feel free to call next week. I'm on the air on the first and second Wednesdays of each month from 12 noon to 1 p.m. And the show's the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Just a quick note on ways that you can manage emotions. If you were hoping to hear more about that, the ways I found to manage emotions, there are 3 key ones. One is, can I actually change the emotion? Not an easy thing to do, but I can help with that if you call. Second is, can I change the narrative? When that emotion shows up for me, can I change what I say to myself about it so I react differently? And 3, can I just stop my reactions? Can I just put up a firewall like you keep viruses and malicious content away from your computers? I think you can do that with your emotions too. So I hope that's helpful. Again, you've been listening to WPKN 89.5 FM, listener-supported radio in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And we're streaming. We're streaming on WPKN.org. And we have an app now that really works well. And it works on your Android phones and your iPhones. Just go to wherever you get your apps and download WPKN, and you'll be able to listen to us wherever you are, anywhere in the world. So that's it for me, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Chuck Wolf. You've been listening to my show and the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Bye-bye.
For over 40 years, SCM
has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education,
and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government
come together.